and welcome back. I'm the Liquid Tongue and this is my channel. I want to start out by saying thank you to everybody that subscribed and watched my first video. This is an ongoing project, so hopefully as I move forward with this, the quality in the videos and everything involved in it will definitely go up. It's all a learning curve for me and this is all brand new. I want to thank you to everybody that commented, liked, and interacted with me too. It lets me know that there's people out there watching and people are some people are interested in what I'm doing. So with that being said, let's get started with my second video. And for my second video, I'm going to be doing a number 2 movie. Now this is going to be relevant, which kind of works out for me because it was recently announced, a direct sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You can guess, I am going to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 today, which is probably one of my all-time favorite movies, and it also has one of my all-time favorite characters. We all know who that is, I'm sure, Mr. Chop Top. Bill Moseley played this character. Probably one of the best performances that I've ever seen for a psychopathic, just cornball, just all the way around character. Rob Zombie's Otis would not exist if it wasn't for the writing of this character and the acting that was the performance that was given by Bill. So going down into this, let's discuss this movie. Real fast, I'm going to touch on the whole idea of this movie kind of being remade in a way, but I definitely I feel it's probably not going to be a remake because it's going to be made by Fede Alvarez. And we've seen what he did with The Evil Dead. Now, he's producing this movie, not directing it. We've seen what he did with The Evil Dead, as I talked about in my last video. Definitely made this a very dark movie, so we might see that with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Because the original, as we all know, is an amazingly awesome, dark horror comedy. This movie definitely was a huge inspiration, more so than the Evil Dead movies, to my enjoyment of dark humor. It's a very twisted rendition of the original characters, except for one. Bill Moseley plays the twin of our hitchhiker that is in this movie, but he's only a little dancing corpse that we get to, he's kind of like a mascot, I guess you would say. And I love that about this movie. And it took me a little bit, the first time I seen it, admittedly, I didn't realize that was him. I was pretty, I would say I was probably around 13 or 14 years old. This movie was released in 1986. Went into movie theaters, made about $8 million, then went to VHS. When it went on to VHS, it exploded. It was promoted in the video stores. It had this really cool cardboard stand-up with Leatherface and his bloody apron. I actually had it. I used to collect those things. But I was a kid that my family moved around a lot, so a lot of my things ended up getting ruined or destroyed or lost to time and just space. And being a kid, my stuff usually wasn't, did not get to see this movie in movie theaters. I rented it as soon as it came out. I was so excited for this movie because I had recently, within probably a year or two of that, got to watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That movie was a game changer for me as far as my perception of horror movies, just how gritty it was, just how disturbingly and beautifully done that movie was, and how much was put into it. It's a masterpiece, and it's understandable why to this day that movie is still talked about and relevant, and people get upset when anybody tries to mess with or add to the timeline or the franchise. Back to 2 itself. And right in the very beginning of this movie, we find out, you understand that this is definitely not going to be the same kind of atmosphere we got from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You got the guys driving down the road, annoying as hell, bugging our girl Stretch at the radio station, acting all crazy because they're on their way to party for the weekend. The big football game is going on. Come across the path of the old redneck truck, play a game of chicken. Later on, that truck shows back up on the bridge, and we get one of the most, I think, one of the most amazing scenes, and especially when I watched it at that age, it was just this awesome chase scene. This truck driving backwards down a bridge. These two guys freaking out, driving forward, trying to get away from him, and they're staying right with them. And out on the back of this truck comes this big dancing corpse going all crazy. Next thing you know, the chainsaw comes out. This car's being hacked up. Sparks are flying everywhere. The radio station's hearing all this. These guys are freaking out. There's gunshots. I mean, it's just all around probably one of the best action scenes for a horror movie that I think, just the way it's done. I mean, it's not over the top with cars blowing up and everything else, but it's just a very cool concept with that truck driving backwards like that, and no fear out of Leatherface dancing around out there, does not care. So you know at that point he's a person that is completely just unhinged or of self-awareness to an extent. You know what I mean? He's definitely a pet. At that point, we get that scene, so we also get the understanding that it's going to be more action-packed, it's going to be a faster-paced movie than the original, and when we get that first initial kill, when that head slides apart and the blood flies out, and you get the reaction of the passenger as he's freaking out, and you get very good, it's dark, but you get very good shots and very good long angles, and you see the blood spraying, and you see the skull split. It's very well done. It's an impressive and it's an amazing opening thing, just like they did in Envy of the Dead. They played or Evil Dead. Just like they did in Evil Dead, they played their cards right in the beginning because everybody knew what this movie's going to be about. We've seen the first one. We know who these characters are, and we know what they're going to do. So letting us know right off the bat, this is going to definitely be a crazier ride than the first movie, and it's definitely going to be a gorier movie than the first one. The first movie, done on a shoestring budget, relied heavily on atmosphere and tension and suspense and the acting ability of the people involved to bring you that horror and understanding of that. You know people have been mutilated there. You get the idea of it. This kind of brings it right to you. So from that scene, we get introduced to Dennis Hopper's character. Dennis Hopper is AKA Lefty. We find out is Franklin, the wheelchair victim from the first movie, his uncle. He is a retired Texas Ranger that has been tracking the family, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre family, for 14 years, because this movie lets you know that the timeline is 14 years have passed since the first movie. So they established that, and it makes sense that they do that because we find out Cookie has been selling chili and selling body parts and making money so that they can survive. He's no longer doing a roadside gas station. He wins a trophy in the movie for the best chili. Woman bites into a knuckle bone. It's a pretty comedic scene. We understand too, as this start playing along, that this is going to be more of a dark humor than the first one, being more of a very gritty, grimy, hard movie that definitely gives you an atmosphere of a psychopathic encounter with crazed, lunatic, backroad psychopaths. With Cookie being established, and we know we've seen Leatherface, the next thing we do is we get to be introduced, and we've met Dennis Hopper's character. Then we get to be introduced to Chop Top. Chop Top shows up at that radio station for the first time, and he's picking under his wig, and he's all twitchy, and he's all pale, and you could just tell this dude's messed up, man. And he's just, the whole feel of this guy is just, one, it's silly in a way because you can't see, unless you're somewhere in the big city and this dude lives under an overpass somewhere. You can't see him really functioning outside in public or society anywhere at all. But the way he portrays it, to the point where asking asking for his request and leading Stretch around the whole part up until we get Leatherface introduced, is just probably one of my favorite scenes ever done in any movie ever. It is, it's just one of those. He's just my favorite character. I think that whole portrayal is just incredible. And from that, we lead into where we get Leatherface. He comes in We get the whole famous scene where now we know, you know, what's under that wig and how he's picking at the skin around his metal plate from Vietnam. And Leatherface, when he hits it, you know, and he does the whole infamous scene, my brain, it's just incredible. And I'm not going to stay on it forever because there's more to cover in this movie than that. But unfortunately, that is, like I said multiple times, my favorite character and scene of pretty much any movie that has existed. So moving forward with that, in this movie, we also get a little more of an understanding of Leatherface. They kind of bring a little more life or character into him, as far as we find out he ends up having an interest. He ends up being our leading man in a way, and our girl Stretch is our leading woman, and in a weird twisted way. They have this whole little, she's trying to save her own life and using his obviously he's never had a girlfriend, he's never touched a woman, and you can tell he's getting aroused by her and the way she's dressed, and she plays to that advantage. And we get the whole weird creepy scene of him using the saw to basically simulate sex to the ice bucket and get very over, you know, excited about the whole situation, which I mean, the whole fact that they do that, there was a lot of people in this movie came out that were very upset that it wasn't, that you could, they felt, some people felt almost like it was bad acting or they were making fun of the first movie, but this was intentionally made to be a dark comedy. And the whole fact, that whole scene just is hilarious, at the same time very twisted. It's just so well done. It's just that you get to see the whole concept of Leatherface. Definitely, we know at this point that he's attracted to women, at least. I mean, he could be attracted to any other thing. We've never really seen anything else about it, but at this point, we know that he's attracted to a woman. And there's later on in the movie, we get the whole scenario through all that. Everything going on and him chasing her around, and we get the whole scenario and the whole sexual scene and the reaction of Leatherface. Along comes Lefty's unfortunate partner that she works with, walks into another one, and it's probably one of my favorite kill scenes, and it's once again Bill Moseley in Chop Top when he beats this dude's head in with a hammer. And the whole time just making it out like he's beating the frickin' piñata and just enjoying himself and making jokes. It just, one of my favorite kill scenes, in the way he, just the whole interaction and the way he dies and twitches and the blood, and it's a very, very well done scene, a very gory scene, and a well done gory scene, but still at the same time, it's humorous. The way they do the lighting, the coloring, and just everything else that goes with it, it almost kind of has a feel too with that the Twilight Zone with the whole cartoon characters and the Wish Kids scene where the lighting changes and everything else. You kind of in some ways get that feel to it, but it's just this incredible mess of gore going along with it. And it's, like I said, another one of my favorite scenes, and this is part of the reason why this character is one of my favorite characters, just because how out there and insane, but well done. It's not like overly done insane. You actually, I enjoy the way it's done. I can see this person actually happening in the world somewhere and showing up somewhere and being that, just, I'm sure a meth head somewhere has probably matched this guy's energy. He was the meth head before meth heads existed. We get taken down to where they're hiding out. I'm just gonna jump forward from spot to spot in this movie, because I'm not really gonna go into history on stuff. I mean, that's not really what my channel's about. Like, I give dates here and there. I'll talk about the character's name here and there, or bring some things into it. This is where this movie is also different, because we get multiple scenarios, and they're pretty big. It's not just a little house, and it's not just a burnt out house in a van. Where they're hiding out is a big, elaborate, run-down, old mini golf place. And just the way the feel is inside this place where they're hiding out, where we actually see the family interact, We get to see it, which is a better, not better, but you get to see that interaction like we had in the first, but in a larger scale and a lot more stuff going on. And just right away, you know that you're going to be in for more stuff because there's bones everywhere. You know, when she finds the place and Lefty finally shows up because he sets her up. Because Dennis Hopper's character is kind of unhinged, kind of he's kind of an asshole. He definitely is an ass. He's off the whole scene where he's just beating the crap out of the trees when he goes to buy the chainsaws and the old guys there. I mean, this whole character is just you know he's seen a lot, done a lot. He's off the hook. He's obsessed. All he wants to do is find these people. He's definitely gone over, you know, into the whole realm of being, you know, religious, and God's kind of driving him. You kind of get that feeling from him. I mean, it's a great character, but it's a character that you're not rooting for. He's kind of annoying as hell, and you're not. He's just not the guy you're rooting for. You're definitely rooting for Stretch throughout all this. She's definitely your final girl. She's definitely the person that you probably care the most about in this. So they end up inside this underground structure under this golf course that they all live in, where Stretch ends up falling in, and Dennis Hopper's character, Lefty, ends up going in, following. He brings chainsaws. He's in there trying to cut the place apart, while she's in there just trying to get out. She's eventually caught, and when she's caught, that's when the line comes apart. For a little while, she's found by Leatherface downstairs. While her friend's face is cut off, Leatherface once again shows his affection for her, puts the face on her, and she's got to wear her friend's skinned face. It's a very, very twisted scenario, and it's a very twisted scene, very gory scene. Her friend comes back to life to free her, and he's just so messed up, over the top, just skinned his face off. It's just an incredible scene. I mean, there's just so many incredibly gory but well done scenes in this movie that's one of the reasons why I'm touching on this, because if they're going to remake this they're never going to be able to replace it. This movie is a cult classic. It has a following. It'll never be replaced. But I'm hoping if they go down the route like they did with Evil Dead, because this is a pretty gory movie, gorier than what they had to deal with the first Evil Dead. If they're going to go over the top of this, I can only imagine the nightmarish scene that's going to happen when we get some people skinned in this, when we see some of these kills, not necessarily redone. I'm sure they'll be referenced and there'll be more intense stuff that happens. But these kill scenes and just the whole atmosphere and the special effect makeup going into the characters, and it's really good. It's definitely not what they were dealing with when they were doing an Evil Dead remake. They're definitely dealing with something that was very well done, and a budget was there for this. So it's not like they can just step into amazing effects and right there step above the other film. So they've got a lot on their plate when they mess with this. So I hope they do a good job. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But back to the original one. So while they're running around, we get a really good rendition of Chop Top. Again, we get to see just how amazingly goofy and funny and just twisted and off the mark this character is. After she escapes from the whole scenario with Leatherface, and she's running around, and she ends up with the vat of blood, and just there's a whole bunch of stuff that transcends. She eventually gets caught and chased around by Leatherface again. And at this point, Cookie and Chop Top also find her, and they realize that Leatherface has got a crush on her. And the whole line when Bill Moseley is just look at her, she's red-faced. Oh, because she has the mask on, and when he says the rest, you get the blush, but you also get the same. She had that her skinned friend's face on her, so just the whole double line there with it is pretty funny. I think it's hilarious the way it's delivered. The whole way he just starts teasing and tormenting Leatherface, and you kind of get the whole family interaction right there, and just how once again you get to see how just off the hook and just randomly just messed up this family is. They bring her back. We get to see grandfather again, and this is 14 years later, and the fact that grandfather's still alive, uh, I I'm not. I don't know. And he's a little more active than the first movie. It's great that he's here, and the whole scene once again with him trying to beat the hammer and hit her in the head. You get the whole drawn out process to feed him, to eventually where Cookie just smacks her in the head, and they start feeding him. Getting him out of the ladle, and then Dennis Hopper's character comes in, and we get the whole scene that plays out here now is why a lot of people were like there could never be a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, because we get the whole, instead of lightsabers, we get the chainsaw battle between Dennis Hopper and Leatherface, and the whole sword fight, and on the table, and just over the top, and just everything going on. And then Leatherface gets stabbed, as we know, through the abdomen with a chainsaw. And so, I mean, that's pretty much sealing the deal that someone's dead. They never addressed how he comes back, if you've ever watched 3, and that's one of the reasons I don't like it, is because it's like 2 never happened, kind of. And I will address how I think that they should do a 3, and I hope they do, and they go from this movie, because it is possible, if you look at everything that surrounds that family, and I'll explain it after I'm done with this, how he could have survived that situation. But so we get the whole Leatherface getting stabbed. We get the Cookie with the grenade. I mean, we get basically the whole scenario. The whole place comes tumbling in. But Stretch, of course, has escaped, and Bill Moseley's character has been chasing her through the piping and everything else. And while all this is going on downstairs, he's chasing her with the razor blade till we get to the point, where they're climbing up the outside of the mountain, which is part of one of the mini golf exhibits, and he's slashing at her back the whole way up. And we get to the top, and we get to meet Grandma. Now, I don't know if she's alive in this, or they make it out like she is, but she's really not moving. So I mean, she must be, if these people dry out the husks and blood just kind of keeps them alive, and they slowly dehydrate and wither, but they're still alive, then all right, I get it. She was dried up when she whips her arms off when she grabs that chainsaw, and Bill Moseley, Chop Top, freaks out, and he's hacking on her back with that razor blade. And I don't mean to laugh, but that whole scene had to be it had to be fun to shoot, because it's just so over the top, just insane, that while it's all going on, and you could feel, because I still flinch, because even though it's a well done movie, and you can feel that razor blade just slashing into her back over and over and over, so eventually she does get things started. She puts Bill out, he's dead. She does the little chainsaw dance around, and we have the ending of the movie. And when that all happened, because she had the red face, everything else, a lot of people thought maybe that was going to lead into another Texas Chainsaw Massacre with her or something else, but it never does. We know that, and that's the end of the movie. Now, like I said, this movie from beginning to end is nothing like, or does not follow, the atmosphere of the original. A lot of people that upset me. It did not upset me. I thought it was amazing. I love this movie. There's been a lot of just movies people have made their attempts, either restart it, remake it, add to it, everything else, and so many of them have been just a disappointment. They just don't capture anything that you got from these original 2 movies. They're just Hollywood, big budgeted redos where, yeah, they do some cool stuff, but it definitely does not. It just doesn't do justice to these movies. So now that we're getting a remake by somebody that's got his hand in it, he's not directing it, like I said, he's producing it. I hope to see he does this movie justice. He definitely did Evil Dead justice. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Now, I still say that if anybody wants to take my advice and write a script that's got money, I doubt that's going to happen. But this family grew up around stockyards, slaughterhouses, everything else, where there would definitely be vets that take care of animals. There would definitely be equipment that I'm sure they could have had a vet character somewhere in the family. They don't even have to use much, but use it as an explanation of how he pieced together and fixed Leatherface. We've had people come back from worse. They could have him with the scar. They could have done so many different things to move forward with this and resurrect this character, instead of just throwing out just that he's still there. And with that, they could have, and we have a proper director and a proper producer, we could have a very awesome 3 without trying to eliminate 2, so that, you know what I mean, and continue in a good spot where all these other movies have fallen short. I mean, the only movie, and it was deliberately a satire making fun, was 4. You know, that's hit any kind of real mark in my book, and that's because it deliberately was set up to be the way it is. I mean, a lot of people try to take it serious, and it's not a serious movie. The people that did that definitely understood the dark humor of 2. They definitely also seen that there was an attempt at dark humor in the first one, but it was such a shoestring budget and so hard to pull off. They couldn't get the humor past how gritty and dark everything was, just because of what they had to work with. So I got my fingers crossed. I really hope this this movie is going to be good. If you haven't seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which I'm sure there's people that have not, definitely go see this movie. Rent it, pick it up, find it, watch it. You'll understand, if you've never seen it, why I have a love for this character Chop Top, and you'll also understand why Otis would never existed in House of a Thousand Corpses or Devil's Rejects without this character. Bill Moseley definitely, and I'm sure Rob Zombie wanted to tap into this with this character, with his love of those gritty older movies and his love of older horror, and the portrayal of this character and how much it was similar to that Hitchhiker, but just another level higher that we got with this character. So I'm at the end of my video. I think I've talked enough. Thank you for coming by. I'll definitely be back next week. I have another video in the process. I enjoy talking to you guys. Please hit a like. Please give me a subscribe. Stay dark. And have a good night. Bye from the Liquid Tongue.